Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. We spiritual aspirants or devotees, we have the intense desire to keep up God remembrance, but somehow we have not been able to keep it up. We do remember and again we get disconnected. We would like to always assert that it is His will that prevails, but we fail to remember that, and our individual will comes. So in order that along with Nama chanting and the philosophy behind it, God also provides us with touching in anecdotes, incidents, to make us aware that He in His own invisible ways, how He comes to the rescue of others. You will all remember Vinobaji used to say that as children, we first learn to write the simple letters. Then after mastering it, we try to start writing the combined, what do you call it? Join letters. Because when you join the letters, there is a meaning, there is a concept, there is a different types of reactions to it. That means, first we will see him in simple letter. That means all that is good and great we try to see. Later on we will try to see him in everything. So that is why he brings about lot of anecdotes. A seemingly positive, negative incident gets a positive approach. How the goodness is touched and kindled in a particular creation for the sake of other creation. And in the result, many including us, we get joy out of it. Papa used to say, when you are compassionate, you play the part of God. Some clues for us, Otherwise, we will superimpose a concept called God on objects, persons, and situations. That is why we don't reach anywhere. But we try to see this first, in simple letters. Today we received an email. We will just read. Last week, when a Rajkot couple boarded an Air India flight to Chicago, they were just headed to attend their son's wedding, but a mid-air medical emergency, the wife suffered from a brain stroke, landed them in Stockholm, a city they had never heard of. However, right from the moment the flight was on ground, the hapless couple found helping hand everywhere, thanks to Sweden socialism and Indian diaspora's resourcefulness, reports Manju V. The hospital did not ask whether his wife was eligible to be treated there, whether he had the money. The Indian embassy contacted Indrani Sinha, the researcher who worked nearby, who took the Gujarati and Hindi-speaking Makwana to places where he could find agreeable vegetarian meals, helped him withdraw money, did a myriad other jobs to assist them. Gujaratis then took over. Makwana said they were mid-air when his wife Usha, 63 years old, suddenly found herself immobile, her speech slurred. Luckily, a neurologist was on the board. At one glance, he said a brain stroke. The Air India flight was approaching a Norwegian sea then. The pilot, Captain Billimoria, had the Boeing 777 turned for an medical emergency. Landing in Stockholm, had she suffered the stroke later over the Atlantic, help would have been 5-6 hours away, too late. In 45 minutes, that means the plane itself took a turn. Instead of going to the chartered destination, took a turn and landed in there. See the care and concern, quality, care and concern that was building up in everybody. They did not bother about, to get the sanction of the higher authorities. Just think about it. Spontaneous. Here we remember Papa's words. Anything that is spontaneous and free from self-interest is coming directly from God. In 45 minutes, the flight was on ground. The patient put into a waiting ambulance where the local police escorted the husband to an emergency visa. For an emergency visa, it was in a different country. I heard them say Orlando terminal was relieved. We had landed in the US as my son is here. But they were in Stockholm. I did not know where this place was. The only country we had traveled to was the US. Air India had their bags delivered in no time. Police was immensely helpful with the visas, dropped me to a hotel. By the time he reached the hospital, Suresh Kumar from the Indian embassy had contacted, who worked in an institute. I went to see him. I knew merely seeing an Indian in a foreign country would bring him some comfort. I contacted my Gujarati friends. Word spread among their community. On November 13, Makwana's wife was removed from ICU to the general ward, while Kaushik Patel, a Gujarati Stockholmer, moved him from the hotel to his home. They drop me to the hospital in the morning, pick me up in the evening. Daily, another family brings me Gujarati lunch. Someone gave me a SIM card. Another Indian brought me sweaters. Temperature is 3 degrees Celsius. Someone has got a mobile charger. It is the benevolence of the hospital staff, police, embassy officials, local Indian. I have never experienced anything like this, said the dentist. His son living in Florida will get married on November 20th. It is not yet known whether they will be able to make it for the ceremony. See what is happening in the Sri Krishnaji was just sharing yesterday in India also. Somebody developed somebody fell down the aisle. Okay. And then immediately in the public address system it was announced whether there is a doctor. But doctor immediately rushed in. He was sweating, the patient was sweating. He removed the clothes, asked everybody to give him free air, and then made him to do some exercises. And in half an hour time he was back to normal. See, the idea is you and I are reading it. You are hearing it. What is welling up in our minds? We have not seen that person, we have no connection with that person. He is not a blood relation. We don't know him at all. But when we hear such a thing, what is welling up? A pleasant feeling. When people are good and people are doing good work, it touches and kindles the goodness in us, which is godliness. Every time during the satsang we are trying to concentrate on this God remembrance, God remembrance, God remembrance. Normally our tendency is, when we start talking about the worldly affairs, Rahara, the negative things, they dominate. This is not alright, this is not alright, they are not alright, they are not alright, and something like that. Whenever we hear, there are umpteen number of such positive incidents that are taking place in and around us. Now we slowly try to understand. Unless a field is provided, how this goodness can come? Somebody had to fall sick, for the doctor to come forward, and various people to do whatever they like, and whatever that was needed. So a field is to be created. Field we cannot create. Then we see the joint letters also, not only the. So in order that we try to understand his presence, otherwise we will not remember him, You get into the flight, you land, you attend the program, come back over. But when such a thing happens, we start thinking about it. How God prompted him. How God prompted the doctor to get into the same aircraft. How he prompted the pilot to overlook or bypass all these statutory requirements when one is on board. How even when it is landed, there are so many restrictions, visas, especially in a different country. But when the humaneness, when the godliness is touched and kindled, nothing is a blockade. They were able to procure a visa for them, and immediately everything got arranged one by one. So the field, see the working of God. It is not planned by an individual. This is something we have to apply our mind. Otherwise we may say, very nice, we will just go. Let us do some manana on this. In order that we get a glimpse of his presence in anything and everything. Every now and then he brings out this. So as a spiritual aspirant, it is always better to observe And then so that when you made me to observe or know about this, and you made me to feel the pleasant feeling, why don't you give me an opportunity to express yourself through such actions through me? Like that you will start thinking, So whatever little act we can do, we will do that, Big things we may not be able to do. But whatever is possible, we may be able to do. Many times we have discussed about Vinobaji's, Upadrashta, Anumanta, Bharta, Bhokta, Chamaheshwara. In Bhagavad Gita, when he was telling, he says the Lord will keep quiet. He will not interfere in an individual's thinking, talking and doing. But when the sense of individuality starts showing some values, that means some me-to-me attitude, humaneness, he will no longer remain as a witness. He will come and pat on his back, well done my boy. Hanumanta. So here we find that, not only that the other person is encouraged, suddenly everybody it triggered a series of activities which helped them to widen their love circle. So spirituality, when Papa says spirituality should enter into all our departments of life, not to be limited to a particular discipline at a particular place and a particular time, but it should be there throughout, because He is with us throughout. And Nama chanting is to make us aware of it, that's all. Nama chanting is to make us aware of His presence. Yesterday, day for yesterday, Papa has been telling that, in so many words, he said the purpose of chanting Nama is to go dive deep within and to know the base of one's life. That is the core of life. So when we keep on chanting, we try to bring this idea. You are there in the form of goodness, in the form of everything. Why don't you make me aware? Why don't you make me aware? So it is not to be limited to a particular time or a place or a particular discipline. Because whether I chant or not, He is there. He is not leaving me. Whether I do bhajan or not, He is not leaving me. Whether I don't recognize Him or not, He is not leaving me. When I know this, how can I forget Him? As the farmer said, you remember only when you forget, So throughout this will be there. That is why nowadays we keep on telling, spirituality expresses in the form of a touch of love, a touch of gratitude, a touch of perfection, a touch of dedication. God will not come before us and show us. He comes out in this form. When there is a touch of love, He is there. When there is a touch of perfection, it is there. When there is a touch of dedication in all that we do, okay? Not merely in ashram or puja room. A touch of love, a touch of dedication, a touch of perfection, a touch of gratitude. You have provided all these things for me, And in spite of my indifference, in spite of my ajnan, in spite of my udasinata, still you have not left me. Not only that you have not left me, you are always leading me, guiding me, even without my knowledge. In this connection, we thought we would also read Pujya Swamiji's one article. Beloved Papa, Mataji and all the saints we have met so far have been telling us that human life is given to us so graciously by God only for the purpose of going back to our source. That is, dedicating our life for the realization of God within us, or in other words, to realize our oneness with God seated in our own hearts. All of us know this very well and want to practice also the sadhana prescribed by them. Some have doubts whether it is possible to lead a spiritual life and at the same time have success in material life. When such questions arise, it is very clear that he or she gives more importance to the material life and spiritual life is given only secondary importance. Otherwise this question will not. Whether it will affect my material progress. Some people naturally try to lead their lives as successfully as possible and may even pray to God to bring in more success. Ultimately, they will come to know that it was futile to have asked for more and more prosperity, as when leaving this world, they cannot carry anything with them. After coming back from Mangalore trip, All India itinerant trip, when Papa was in Badri cave, one day he was requested by some devotee or some friend, to go to a particular house where the mother has lost a son. So reports came that she had not taken anything. For the past 3 days she was lying down, crying. So Papa went there. She was not looking at Papa. Papa was seated here, she was looking. Papa tried 2-3 times, then said, "Oh mother, your child has come. Ramdas, please look." No. Then Papa sat there for 10 minutes. Then God started working, no? She turned. She looked at Papa. Then Papa said the same word. That's why we remember. It is true you have lost your son. But have you thought that you and I will also go one day? Next moment also we can go. So think about the transitoriness of our life. That is the only way by which we can console, we can reconcile, we can carry on with the life. When we came to this world, nobody accompanied us. When we leave this world, we have seen nobody accompanies anybody. And when there is a birth, death is certain. Think about it. So she said, what you say is understandable at the intellectual level, but I cannot keep it up. Again the attachment comes and overpowers me. Then Papa said, I will give you a pill. This is what it is. I will give you a pill, always you have it in your tongue. Always chew it, never swallow it. What is the Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Because the mantra gives you, gradually will give you what is permanent and what is not permanent. What is static, what is not, what is transitory. So then everybody said she has not taken any food. So she said, bring. Ramdas also would like to take. And then Papa made her to eat, Papa also ate. And when she got down, it was working on her mind. After 2-3 days, again when he went, she said, yes, your pill is working. Every time I immediately remember this, transitoriness. God is the only one who is always there. The rest of the things are transitory. So here he says, Swamiji says, when leaving this world, they cannot carry anything with them. All the attainments of the worldly life are left behind. Only whatever sadhana we do will go with us and can be made use of in our future life. So we have been actually ignoring the teachings of our beloved Papa, Mataji, and all say that our life must be devoted only for God realization and we should not hanker after material prosperity. They do not say we must give up everything. They only say we should live in the world and at the same time be devoted to God. They only say we should live in the world and at the same time be devoted to God. Our primary aim should be to reach Him. Those who have taken to serious sadhana should realize that their goal is the realization of God and the attainment of eternal peace and bliss. As long as we have a body, we have to do something. But not necessarily with the idea of hoarding money, earning name and fame, etc. The main purpose would be to realize Him. If we are thus deeply devoted to God, sincere in our aspiration to realize Him, and earnest in our sadhana to reach, we can be sure that God will take care of our material needs. We have seen in his life, yesterday we were sharing, when mounting liabilities were troubling him, and he did not know how to run the establishment. Such a pathetic and chaotic state Papa was passing through. But his dedication to God, his surrender to God was complete. Suddenly one person comes, offers to help him. And even then Papa did not say, "You please help me." Papa told him, if you invest money, you will also lose the money. But in spite of that, God made him to enter into this and helped him. Here he says, the main purpose should be that. If we are earnest in our sadhana, if our aspiration to realize Him is deep, we can be sure that God will take care of our material needs. He will look after us like a mother looking after her child. Any effort on our part must be only to think of Him constantly, to dedicate all our activities to Him, and to aspire only to realize Him. Given this, everything else will be taken care of. We must have complete faith in Him. It has been told repeatedly by our Gurudev, our mother, all Mahatmas, that we should entirely depend upon Him and there is no need to worry about our material needs. In spite of such assurances, we do not have faith in their words. If we leave ourselves in the hands of God and aspire only for God realization, we can be sure that we will be looked after very tenderly by Him. At the same time, we must be prepared for the highest sacrifice and also lead an austere life. If we are devoted to God, we will not aspire for material comforts and prosperity. We will be satisfied with whatever position God chooses to place us in. As by God remembrance alone, we will enjoy the peace and bliss of the eternal. So we should properly understand the teachings of our Master. May all Mahatmas, may our beloved Papa and Mataji inspire us from within to live only for Him. May their blessings be upon all of us so that we may reach the supreme goal soon. So that much faith we should develop in. So while chanting, all these dimensions should be there in one corner of our mind. Then only it will not become mechanical. So anything that contributes to have the right attitude while chanting, we should be immediately to grab it. So that our one Nama chanting, that should help us. 5 minutes Nama chanting, that should help us. Half an hour Nama chanting, that should help us. Help us in going deep down within ourselves. And try to have a link. It's difficult again. Try to have a link with Him. And every now and then we need some inputs so that we get a push, such incidents, positive incidents. Instead of thinking about the so-called labeled negative thoughts, let us try to identify more and more of incidents where there is expansiveness, there is selflessness, there is tyag, there is me to be, not me to me. They will all help us. Yesterday when Papa said that though he was leading an ordinary life, he was not selfish. He was not exploiting anybody for anything. He was not causing injury to anybody, though he was not aware of the higher power. So a value-based life was there, a righteous life was there as the basic foundation. And then along with that, we cannot stop with that. Just like we read out in anecdote, if we just view it from the individual level, we appreciate and keep quiet. But we, as devotees, we try to see the hand of God. And why it is connected to us. Where is Stockholm, where is Rajkot, and where is Kanangad? How do we get in touch with them? Why it has been caused to make us know of it? All these things we put together. The divine plan. Not only He does it somewhere else, through His chosen instruments, but He also sees to it that many of His creation come to know of it, touch, rekindle, and they find an inexplicable, pleasant feeling welling up in their heart the moment they hear this. These are all drops that will give us a push in our sadhana. When we go through the inquest of God, Papa is not giving any lecture to all, but every chapter has got an anecdote. He could have simply said, rely on God, that is enough. But, He has been hammering into our brain through 37 strokes. Because He knew that unless these strokes are given, I may not be able to assimilate, hold on to. First, intellectually, the concept called God remembrance. Even if we leave the first and second chapter, from third chapter onwards, you can see anecdotes. First and second chapter prepares the entire ground. The transition from an individual to a higher level. And from the third chapter onwards, every chapter will have some anecdotes, something for us to think deeply. And through anecdotes, He is conveying profound ideas, philosophies. Not through dry words, but through anecdote, touching anecdotes. So anecdotes play a very important role. We take it that anecdotes play an important role in the life of a sadhaka. Through knowing and sharing it, But unless and until we link it with the Lord, we may not derive the fullest use. At that time we may be happy, again we may be forgetting. But when we start linking with, oh God, so these are the two, three things which we wanted to share today. As much as possible, that is why in the vision there is a column called Dear Children. We are all children, so we need, along with all these taught philosophies, we also need something like an anecdote that will touch and kindle. A man was passing on the road when he saw a blind man. He wanted to take the blind man to his house for dinner. But as he had to go in a hurry, he told the blind man to come to his house and have dinner with him. He went to his wife and asked her to have one more meal prepared, as he had invited a blind man for dinner. His wife replied that she would prepare 2 extra meals. When asked why she was preparing meals for 2 instead of 1, she said, the blind man cannot come alone. He will be led by another. This illustration is to show that worldly happiness does not come to us alone, but is always accompanied by sorrow. Pleasure born of material things is always mixed with sorrow. The object of the senses cannot give us unmixed happiness. This is the experience of every one of us. We must therefore rise above the pairs of opposites and, going deep into the heart, discover the eternal source of joy within and behold the whole universe as divine, ever filled with light, joy and peace. This is culled out from Papa's stories. So anybody can derive so many, So it cannot come alone. So she said a blind man cannot travel, so one more person will be there. And when we read first, what touched us was the quality, care and concern of that lady, And also the other person. Whenever we handle, we should know this, How can a blind man come alone? You would have given the necessary instructions, okay. But how can he come alone? So here the quality, care and concern is writ large. These are all spirituality expressed in so many forms. Ajay Papa himself wrote a book called Stories as Told There. Easy to convey. So as devotees, that we will also simultaneously try to gather as many of such positive incidents. Because by sharing a positive incident, there is a joy in it, Just like suppose you can sing beautifully, your singing will give joy to others. When you cook, suppose you are a good cook, when you cook something and it is eaten by everybody and they enjoy it, they say it's wonderful. You are happy, When you write something and when somebody is enjoyed by somebody, when they say they felt benefited, you find joy. So similarly, let us all try as much as possible to gather this positive incident. It is there, not that we have to go in search for it. When we have such an attitude, God will see to it that they come at our lap. That is what we have seen now for the past so many decades here now. That is why we have built up a big story bank, anecdotes bank. Wherever we get, we pool it there so that it can be shared. The more we share such incidents, the more so many values, they keep coming and reminding us. Because we should not live like that, not hearing like that. Just like a movie, suppose we see that for that moment we are happy, and later on we may forget. It does not have any deeper impact in our life. But here, suppose when we try to bring in the God dimension, slowly the touch of love, touch of perfection, touch of dedication and touch of gratitude, that will slowly percolate into our thoughts, words and deeds. So let us all pray to Him to move in that direction, to give us the necessary prompting from within, to understand Papa's quotation. The world we live in is a school in which observation and experience offer us immense possibilities for self-improvement. The world itself is Guru Varga. That quotation comes often in our mind, so that we should not miss anything. Not only that he makes us to observe, he also makes us to experience. Let us not simply take it as an experience and leave it. No. Let us see his hand. However tiny it may be, however insignificant it may be from others' point of view. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Om Shri Ram. Hari Om. Namaskaram. Hari Om.
Hari Om.